Welcome! Today we're going to jump into a part of English grammar that, once you get the hang of it, is going to make your language sound incredibly natural and sharp. We're talking about pronouns.
Hey there, English learners. Welcome where grammar gets easier, clearer, and a lot more fun. And that's our promise to you. You know, grammar isn't just about memorizing a bunch of boring rules, it's about understanding the system. And our whole goal today is to make that system super clear so you can use these words with total confidence. So today, we're zeroing in on these 3 specific types. Each one has a really distinct job to do. And by the end of this little explainer, you'll know exactly which one to grab and when. So let's dive right in with the first one.
All right, first up, let's talk about demonstrative pronouns. And honestly, the best way to think about these guys, they're basically your pointing words. They help you single out exactly what you're talking about in a sentence. You know, I just love this little detail. The word itself actually gives us a massive clue. It comes from the Latin word demonstrare, which means to show clearly. And that is the perfect description of what these pronouns do.
Okay, so the main rule here is actually super simple. It all comes down to distance from you, the speaker. You use this and these for things that are close by, and you use that and those for things that are a bit farther away. So you might say something like, I'm buying this book right here, not that one over on the other shelf. See? Simple. But this is where these pronouns really level up, okay? They go from just being useful to being absolutely essential, especially when you're writing. They act as these elegant little shortcuts to stop you from repeating yourself. So how does that actually work? Let's see it in action. Okay, so take a look at this sentence. I mean, you could say, the climate of Belgium is like the climate of Pune, right? But listen to how that sounds. You're repeating climate. It feels just a little bit clunky. So instead, we use a pronoun. And that's it right there. Using that is such a clean, clever move. It's a classic sign of really strong, efficient writing. You're just swapping out that whole noun climate with one single elegant word. This is exactly why pronouns are so powerful. They make our language flow so much better. All right, you ready to move on? Let's get into our second category, indefinite pronouns. Now, if demonstratives are all about pointing at specific things, these are for when you're talking more generally. When you're not being specific, you're not pointing anymore, you're just kind of generalizing. I mean, just look at this list. We've got words like somebody, nobody, few, everyone. When you say something like, somebody has stolen my watch, you don't know who it was, right? That uncertainty, that vagueness is right there in the name, indefinite.
Okay, now I want to zoom in on one of these because it has a really specific but super important rule that trips a lot of people up. Let's talk about the pronoun one, like in this example here. So here's the key thing to remember. In more formal writing or speaking, if you start a sentence with the pronoun one, you have to stick with it. You follow it up with ones. So you'd say, one must do one's duty. It's a small thing, but it's a real marker of consistent, formal grammar.
Oh, and this is such a great example of how language isn't static, it's always evolving. The old super formal rule was to use his after words like everyone or anybody, but today, using they is not just common, it's totally accepted as correct. It's more inclusive, it's efficient, and frankly, it just reflects how we actually talk. And that brings us to our third and final category for today, distributive pronouns. The big idea here is that we're talking about the members of a group one by one, individually, instead of thinking about them all together as a lump sum. Now, this brings us to the absolute number one, most important rule for these pronouns. You've got to remember this. They are always treated as singular. Always. No exceptions. So even if you're talking about a whole busload of boys, you'd still say each of the boys is getting a prize, not are. This little table breaks it down really nicely. Each can work for any number of things in a group, but either and neither, they're specialists. They only come into play when you're dealing with 2 things, and only 2. Either means you pick one of the 2 options, and neither means you reject both of them. Okay, here's another practical little tip that's going to save you some stress. You might have learned the old school rule that says each other is for 2 people and one another is for more than 2. Well, guess what? In modern English, that distinction is pretty much gone. It's totally fine to use each other even when you're talking about a whole crowd of people. Whew. Okay, we have covered a ton of ground. So let's pull it all together and lock in what we've learned with a quick summary. Think of this as your pronoun master key. And here it is, all boiled down. Demonstratives point stuff out. Indefinites are for general things. And distributives look at things one at a time. Seriously, if you can just remember those 3 main jobs, you are in great shape. And that's a wrap for today. If you enjoyed this explainer and it helps clear things up for you, please go ahead and like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon. That way you'll never miss a new lesson when we drop one. And hey, have you got questions? Are there other grammar topics you'd like to see us break down like this? Drop a comment below. I'm always listening and I really do read them. Until next time, remember to keep learning, keep practicing, and stay confident. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you soon.